Hey, you're going to want to watch this one. Check out the title down below, Run to the Fight. That should get your attention. Wait till you hear the story that we talk about and how to not just move when you're under attack, but also how to move through life and the career. Stay tuned.
Hello, everybody. Here we are, Remnant Revealed. What a great...
They catch you off guard there.
Caught me off guard. I was right in the middle of an eye scratch.
Pointing your finger in your eye there.
Here we are sitting, and we got a good cup of coffee. Cheers.
Yeah, bub.
Man, that's a good cup
like
of
my
coffee.
Cup there?
Yeah.
My cup?
Yeah, you like what?
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
What's that say? Pastor?
Pastor, yeah. So we're having a great day, enjoying fellowship and being together and talking and visiting, and we got some good stuff to talk about today.
Got a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that's been going on. A lot of happenings.
A lot of goings-ons,
busy, as I like to say.
Oh, yeah. It never slows down, right?
I've never noticed it to do so.
My pastor said one time to me, he said, now, son, let me tell you something. Crawl as long as you can crawl. Because when you start walking, they'll never let you crawl again. And then he said, and walk as long as you can walk. Because when you start running, they'll never let you walk again. And boy, isn't that true?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of truth on that.
A whole lot of truth. It just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. It feels like. Yeah.
Wisdom right there.
Yeah.
Lived wisdom.
But very you had some special guests on a Zoom call and
got pretty unique opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't think I fully grasped it until we were actually doing it.
You're done, yeah.
James Patterson, you know that name?
Yeah,
the author.
Oh yeah, yeah. And listen,
turns out he's written a few books.
Oh my gosh, and some great war books too on military.
Yeah.
But this time,
yeah. So he's a fiction writer, and that's what he's known for. Alex Cross books and all those, the whole series and all those things. And he's written a new book in conjunction with another gentleman by the name of Matt Eversman.
Okay.
And Matt is a retired Army Ranger.
There you go.
And like you were saying, they had worked together before on a book, I think, called Walk in My Boots.
Right.
And it was about the military and soldiers and stories from soldiers and whatnot. But the reason why I got the opportunity to talk to him was because they've co-authored a book, put a book together that's called Walk the Blue Line. And it is it's an awesome book that takes all these individual stories from cops all over the country, active, retired, local, state, federal, and puts them all together in this book. But it came from interviewing all these different officers and hearing their stories and kind of collating them all together.
So it's called Walk the Blue Line.
Walk the Blue Line. So people,
by James Patterson.
Yeah, find it on wherever you go to look for books.
Right.
But I asked him because inside the what's that called? Where the cover where you open it, whatever that's called. Yeah. It says for his bio, it says
the cover. Yeah.
What
is that?
The leaf
what
of
is
that or whatever that's called. Anyways, in the back under his bio, it says that he is the all-time best-selling author worldwide.
Really?
So I asked him about that.
Smokes.
I said, "Is this correct?" Which I don't know, maybe he was offended by it. I don't think he was, but I didn't realize that. And I liked his response, though. He said, well, I do write fiction. That's like suggesting maybe that was fiction. But no, I mean, very well-known author. We had the opportunity to do a online interview.
Right.
It was for the Fraternal Order of Police, the national organization, in having this discussion. And so you can find the interview probably on the National FOP and also James Patterson sites and resources and whatnot. But it's an opportunity to talk to him and Matt about their work with this. And what I found fascinating, there's a lot of really cool points that got brought out in this discussion. But what I found interesting was how he said this. He said he talked about defund the police and how that was a mess and a complete catastrophe, not just for the profession, but for the country and the citizens that are served by police. But he really kept making the point that, hey, this message of what our law enforcement, not only what our law enforcement officers do, but what they may have to do, and they
Right.
realize that message has to get out there more. And he talked about getting onto other news channels, national news channels, and having these discussions based on the book, which I fully encouraged him to do. But, he talked about how he was moved in these different stories. He talked about how when they did the military book, he really thought that he got a better appreciation for the military.
Gotcha.
But he talked about in this, how much more he's gotten for law enforcement. And he said, he talked about what amazed him was how these officers are willing to risk and what they've done and the events that happened in their careers and in their lives, but how they would always run toward the danger.
Right.
And I just, it was refreshing to hear, And what was cool
Yeah.
too, he even acknowledged, he said, that he even leans liberal, but he took on that political philosophy as it relates to law enforcement.
Right.
And I think the compelling message that came from it is that politics has no place in policing.
Right.
And, everybody wants to be safe.
Sure.
And so that's the one thing that I think is really a compelling message all the way around, which is no matter what you say, everybody wants to be safe, and you got to be safe before you can do anything else.
And one of the things that makes it difficult for just your average community person to understand is that when you've been through traumatic crises or you've had to do what officers have to do, they don't want to tell those stories.
That's right. So
But
you
in
gotta have
order
some trust there.
Right. But in order for someone to really understand
And appreciate it.
And appreciate what you do or how you've laid your life down or how you've come close or those stories are very important.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they can be written down where that officer doesn't have to get on television and tell it or, make a movie and he's got to watch it and all that stuff or she, whatever the issue is. But where it can be written down by two authors that help give that perspective to the public, because most people do not understand the pressure, the pain, and the value of that officer and their lives as they do their job every day. It's absolutely amazing.
And officers, when they've gone through something like that, the last thing they want is the spotlight to be on them.
That's right.
So if you get them to the point that they're willing to share what actually occurred, they want the spotlight usually to be on victims,
That's
on
right.
the incident, on the service, the profession itself.
Right. Yep.
And so to your point, that's a great way of doing it, right? Because most of them, although their names are on their stories, people won't necessarily remember their names as much as they will what actually occurred, and that's what they want.
Yeah. And people like Patterson and those that help him totally make sure of the accuracy of those events and those stories. So especially with a long time writer like that's very acclaimed. I mean, so what a great,
it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that
really
is
down
cool.
to earth guys, both of them. They were a real pleasure to speak with, and hopefully people can watch that interview, but also maybe check out the book, and maybe we can put a link to that stuff down below. And
I think
people
we're going to do that. Yeah,
we try to do that whenever we mention a book or whatever anything that's going on that we think could be helpful for law enforcement officers, their families, and just the community in general. I've had a lot of people reach out since that interview who are not in law enforcement that have said, "Hey, I'm buying that book. I ordered that book."
There you go.
Because for that exact reason that you brought up. And I realize, same thing. I don't often think about, officers work so hard to shield the community and their families from the things that they witness, the things that they go through. That's why they do what they do. Women and men step forward to serve in that capacity so the rest of the community doesn't have to be exposed to the drama and the trauma of all that stuff.
And sometimes the community can take that for granted because of what they don't see.
They absolutely do, right?
Yeah.
So, so same thing applies, right? It kind of surprised me when I heard from so many folks in the community that aren't necessarily connected to law enforcement saying, "Hey, I checked out the interview. I'm going to order that book." And they were ordering the book because they were intrigued to be able to hear and see these stories.
That's good. Because
so many officers won't talk about it, like you said.
Yeah.
And
military veterans are the same way.
And he talked about it a little bit, but it really is humanizing the person behind the badge.
That's right.
That there's actually a person behind there. and reminding everybody of that. So this is a great opportunity.
We might be headed towards IA, but officers are not IA. They're real human beings that have to make very quick split-second decisions.
Not IA, but AI.
Yeah, AI. That's right. Yeah.
You
AI.
get cops nervous when you say we're
IA?
heading towards IA.
I mean, AI. Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. But no, we're not going towards it. Yeah. AI is what I meant. Artificial intelligence. I should have just said it. Robots.
All right, there you go.
But officers are definitely not robots.
Well, that's right.
They're flesh and blood human beings that are burdened with making, and I do say burdened because it's not an easy decision to make at times. It's a response to violence or a response to murderous activity. To
your point there, we're in a day and age where technology is really playing a role in law enforcement.
Right.
We have drones, we have body-worn cameras, we have license plate reader technology, all these public safety cameras everywhere, facial recognition, all these things can get a little scary too.
Yes, they can.
But the one thing that's important to remember is all of that is just a piece of equipment that aids the human being officer in their job. But it's still a human being officer who has to make those split-second decisions based on what's presented to them. So even when you have all those things, those are just perspectives, not even the officer's perspective, but a perspective perhaps of what occurred or a collection of data or whatnot.
Right.
But it still requires that human being officer with all their senses, including compassion.
That's right.
To be in that decision-making role, and we can never lose sight of that. And that is the real danger that we run into. People say, well, I watched this video, or I saw this, or whatever. Well, that's great, but that's not necessarily the perspective of the human being involved. And that's important to remember for folks. And we lose track of that. But you know what? The reason why that's so important is because you want a human being making those decisions, as flawed as we are.
That's right.
Right? You want a human being making those decisions because you can't lose the heart of the matter of what's involved.
That's right.
The humanity of it.
And we're going to get into some of this on another program at some point in the future, but even in some of our systematic things that happen in our communities, they're pulling more of that from a human being and making it more about computer-based technology that's actually getting communities in trouble and setting us up for higher levels of danger.
Yeah.
And man, I want somebody that can in the moment say, I realize in all the circumstances you didn't mean to do that.
Well, I think here's the biggest
right?
Here's the biggest thing is none of those things are going to do what we talked about when we started, which is run toward the danger.
That's right. That's right.
It takes a human being to do that because it's not a rational response to what is being presented.
No, it's not.
So if you put that in front of a computer, the computer will say, run away.
That's right. Hey,
right?
Get out.
That's right.
Quick.
That's exactly
it's funny you bring that up because when we talk about running to danger, that is a high quality that is in a police officer. And it's not, for me, I know there is training involved, but it's not about training. It's about the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the heart of those men and women that do this job. When I look back through Scripture, one of my favorite Bible characters is King David.
Mm-hmm.
But before King David was King David, he was just a young man watching over his father's sheep, who was very skilled with two instruments. One was what we would call a guitar today. He loved to sing. He could pick a guitar. The second one was a sling, and those slings were used in warfare. We're not talking about a little bean shooter that you give a child. These men were very accurate, up to 100 yards.
100 yards.
100 yards. Just think about that for a minute. that a man could take a sling and twirl that thing and release an object that most of us would think, oh, that's like a little play toy. No, these men could release that object and hit a target at 100 yards and drop it or kill it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he is highly skilled with two instruments. One, he uses to sing and bring worship to God. The second, he uses to take out the enemies of the sheep, which a bear, he mentions it, a bear,
still like
a lion.
a ballistic technology of the day, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And so there's a story in 1 Samuel chapter 17 where he goes, Israel and the Philistines are in battle. They're getting ready to have a fight.
Really cool story in this book.
It is called the Bible. Right. Yeah. This is Old Testament, but David goes to check on his dad, sends him to go check on his brothers. His brothers are military men in the army.
They're in the battle.
They're in the battle.
David is not.
David is not. David's still a shepherd boy.
All right.
Little red-haired, hairy-legged guitar picker. That's what I always call him. And he goes, he's got a carriage. He goes to check on his brothers. And when he gets there, he's got some food for him, right? Now, I call it cheese and crackers, but I mean, who knows what the food is, but he's got some food for him. And the Bible says he jumps off the carriage and runs to go check on his brothers. There's one thing I know about cops. If they're going to go check on their partners or check on their beat partners or check on the people that are in their particular area, man, if any trouble happens or if there's any sign of danger, cops are going to run. The first run they do is they run to each other. I'm running to go check on you. That's why you see, if you're general public and you're watching this, that's why you see a lot of cop cars show up at one incident. I'm going to make sure you're okay. I heard that come over the radio. I'm coming to make sure that you got backup, that you're going to be okay. David runs to his brothers. I think it's verse 22. Maybe you've got it there.
So give the address again.
It's chapter 17 of 1 Samuel. That'll be a 1 in front of the word Samuel in your Bible at the top.
And then chapter 17, verse what?
Chapter 17. Look at verse 22.
Okay.
And he says, and David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran into the army and came and saluted his brethren. That's what cops do.
Yeah.
Checking on you, making sure you're all right. Hey, now he's probably saying, hey, Aaron, Dad wanted me to make sure you guys were okay, see if you needed anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he runs to check on them. I see cops do that. There's always a radio check. Man, dispatchers do that. They key in on the radio. If you've got a traffic stop or you're out on a run or a call, just doing a wellness check, just making sure you're okay. He's checking on his brothers. But the next time he runs, now check this out, his brothers won't go out and fight.
Mm-hmm.
They're all up on the hillside. The Philistines have called out their champion, and he's down in the valley, and he's calling up to everybody. Bunch of, let me put it in good old North Carolina mountain talk, you bunch of sissy boys up there, you ain't got guts enough to come down here and fight me. We're going to whoop y'all today, right? Mm-hmm. He's down there mouthing off. Well, David turns to everybody and says, why are you letting this
uncircumcised Philistine?
That's right.
That's right.
Run. You've been waiting a long time to use that.
So he actually says it 3 times.
Yep.
Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Now, a lot of people get hung up on the uncircumcised part, which is still
funny.
Still a great line.
Yeah.
But really,
great movie.
You got to remember that it's also not referring to just the physical, but also the spiritual, the uncircumcised heart.
Yeah, that he has no covenant with God.
That's it.
Yeah.
But he's reminding not just his brothers, but everybody on that hillside, hey, who is this guy?
Why are y'all letting him yell?
It's kind of like that Tombstone scene, right?
That's right.
Where he steps out and he says, I'm your Huckleberry. That's what David ends up doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's not going to let this guy bully this whole army, which is what he's witnessing. Yeah. He's watching a whole army.
A whole entire army.
Basically jump into their foxholes and try to stay away from this one dude down in the valley.
Which is what all these riots and all the stuff that has happened in our land and around the world, by the way. In other countries I go to on a mission field, they've had the same issues where the wicked have come out against law enforcement and have tormented them and have created scenarios and situations almost, to chest bump and say, we're going to make you run back up on your mountain somewhere and
I'll
hide.
go one further. What about those times and those scenes that we saw in the not too distant past where people were demanding that officers kneel on the ground in front of them?
Thank you very much.
You remember the scene of the one officer who stood with his arms folded and said, "What? I only kneel for God."
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Great example of exactly what we're talking about
That's
here.
right.
Once again, old school book here in the Bible speaking directly to what's
right
going
to
on
where we
today.
are today. That's
and
right.
specifically to police.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Great
cool.
point. Great point.
That's pretty cool.
I encourage people to dive in here and read into that story,
Yeah.
man. But
So-
so he calls that out,
We're getting pumped up.
and he
just
does it 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times he
Why
says it,
would you listen to this guy run his mouth?
which is like a rallying cry,
Yeah.
and reminder to all these folks, what are you doing here? And this is like a kid
Yeah.
saying this to all these
Why-
battle hardened dudes.
guy. Yeah. Why are y'all just sitting here? Yeah. We serve the Lord God Almighty. We're
That's
the
right.
people of covenant. We serve God. This big mouth down here doesn't serve our God. He doesn't know anything about him. Now, here's what every cop does, and this is what I love about this story. Then David tells them, I'll go down there and whip him.
That is right.
I'll do it. Now, if you look in law enforcement, you're going to find people of every kind of stature. You're going to find some people who are 6'8", 300 pounds. You're going to find some people who are 125 pounds and maybe 5 foot or 4'9".
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I know: the authority that they walk in is the same.
Yeah.
You got battle-hardened soldiers sitting up on this hill, but you have a young man that says, I know more about this covenant and care more about it than you do.
That's the key.
That's the key.
See, they're focusing on this giant that they're facing in the valley
Yeah.
and thinking that in the physical realm, they can't compete with
That's
this.
right.
They can't stand up to this. They can't withstand it.
Yeah.
And what David is really reminding them is this isn't a physical battle, guys.
That's right.
This is a spiritual battle.
Yep.
And the best part is David says, I know all about the spiritual realm.
That's right.
I've been wrestling in this world
That's right.
for quite some time,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And I think that's the power in an officer that's well grounded in faith in the God that they serve,
That's right.
the God who has called you.
So David practiced in private.
There you go.
And he said, I whipped a lion, I whipped a bear, I got the mouth open and took one of the lambs out of those very animals. I practiced in private. I practiced talking to my God. And now, how many of us, even knowing what we know, would go chase down a bear or a lion? I ain't doing that.
That's what I'm saying, right?
But he practiced.
And he wasn't using
That's right.
he wasn't using imagery.
Right.
He was talking about legit.
Yeah, this was
bears
not an
and lions.
analogy.
That's right.
That's right. This was not an
right.
analogy. And so he says, well, I'll go fight him. I'm not going to listen to him run his mouth, right? It's like the call. You for law enforcement officers, it's the call of the wicked that make them answer it with the call of God in their heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wicked that says, we're going to take this street. We're going to take this neighborhood. We don't care about the little grandmas that live in this neighborhood. This is our neighborhood.
Right.
And the mouth of the wicked stirs the call of God in the heart of the righteous. And the heart of the righteous, the law enforcement officer says, oh, no, you're not. Mm-hmm. We're going to clean you out of here. The community will help, but we're going to clean you out of here. You're not staying here. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do these wicked acts. David says, well, I can't tolerate his mouth. I can't tolerate his voice. And then he turns and runs to the fight and to the wicked.
That's right.
He runs to the fight. So if you look at verse 48,
Yeah.
look at verse 48. Read that. Read 48.
When the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine.
What did he do?
He ran quickly toward him.
He ran quickly.
Well, then it's kind of like an ambush, right?
That's
The way
right.
you defeat an ambush is you advance on the ambush.
That's right.
And that's how you counter that. I would suggest that in this day and age, that might perhaps be the secret to all the junk we've been going through. All these politicians, all these protesters, all these activists with radical agendas that's trying to hijack, destabilize the law enforcement profession. Really beyond that, that's the means.
That's
what
the
they're
means.
truly trying to destabilize is the sense of the power and the authority of law, established law,
the Constitution,
by the people,
yeah,
and the order that comes from that, destabilized by design. And the way that you counter that is you advance on that.
There you go.
And it doesn't have to be in the physical nature. I want people to hear what we are saying here.
Yeah.
We're trying to do all this in our own strength. It's never going to work that way.
Never going to work.
You got to invoke the power of God.
That's right.
Into the situation. Speak life into that situation. And quite honestly, when you confront folks with facts and the facts of the Creator himself, all that other junk falls, just like this giant did in this story.
In if you back up just a couple of verses, David says to Goliath, you come at me with a sword, and verse 45, and with a spear and with a shield. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied.
Big difference.
Big difference. He didn't make a list of his duty belt and all and what he has, what he's coming, and he said, "Hey, you're coming at me with natural weapons.
Physical
I'm
weapons.
coming at you. It's not about the weapons you have in your hand. It was about what you had in your mouth.
In your heart.
And in your heart, you told me you were going to kill us. You were going to take us out. That our God should bow to your God." And he said, "We're not doing it. I'm coming to you with the authority." Anytime you see where it says in the name of,
that's right.
That means in the authority of. What a police officer would say, stop in the name of the law. It doesn't mean the law's going to come out and wrap you in its arms and drag you to the ground. That officer and the badge on his chest represents, or her chest represents, the law.
It's the name that's on that shield, the name that's on that patch. That's why
right.
It's so important in the law enforcement profession. Why do we trade patches, right? Because it represents the various authorities that officers are coming from.
That's right.
All under the overall umbrella of the Constitution of the United States.
That's right.
And so I think that what's important in this story, too, is that this isn't just some little bully down in the valley. This is a giant of a man.
That's exactly right.
An abnormally
very large,
powerful, threatening, imposing person.
So historically, most people listening to this would probably remember the wrestler Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he suffered. His size was created by a gland in his head that made him have an extra growth hormone that caused him to grow extra large. And so many theologians physiologically believe that Goliath and his brothers and his father, that they also suffered from that same hereditary issue. That's why when the stone hit his forehead, it took him down. It took him off his feet. He was led out into the battlefield because eventually those things start affecting your eyesight, things like that. So he was over, statistically speaking, he was probably over 9 feet tall. That's a big man. I mentioned a while ago like 6'8" and 300 pounds. Let's say 9 foot tall. That's now we know that's possible. We've seen humans here even that are over 7 foot tall or 8 foot tall, so we know that's possible. We know physiologically the hormonal issue can do that, right? It's possible in a human. And so he's come out and David's nowhere near that tall.
Right.
He's come out, he's not.
This is a kid.
He said, "What, are you like a dog that would come out and run and bite at me and growl at me?"
This is what the giant is saying.
Yeah, the giant's saying to David.
Goliath is saying to David.
"You little whippersnapper, get away. I could thump you," right?
But he draws him out in that same pride,
Yeah.
and pride
pulls him
comes
right
before the fall.
That's right. Pulls him right in. And I love the part, just like cops do, man. He ran to the fight. He took the fight to him. He did not hang back. He did not do what those who were on the mountainside did. And actually, because he was willing to run to the fight, it stirred courage up in them too.
Well, that's right.
And I'm saying today, what our law enforcement officers are doing should start stirring some courage in the rest of us.
In the
to
community.
stand up in the
That's
community,
right.
to stand up and say, oh, you're right. We're not going to tolerate this.
Well, and I think folks around the country are seeing what the demise is when you bow to evil.
That's right.
And, if you want to argue about what evil is, I mean, when folks are destroying your cities, destroying your communities, destroying your neighborhoods, not just in riots, criminal riots, by the way, but also in day-to-day crime and violence.
That's right.
At some point, you got to stand up.
Ambushing officers.
Well, that's right. What do we see increasing across the country is the number of ambush attacks on officers.
In high percentage.
Very high.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Unlike anything that we've ever seen.
That's
and so
exactly right.
when you talk about that, at some point, folks have to get stirred enough to say that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough, and we're not doing this anymore.
That's right.
And you got a great example in here, and it doesn't take the big man on the block. This is done with a kid who challenges the giant that's before them.
That's right.
In the physical and the spiritual, whatever the case may be, wickedness, and says, I'm your huckleberry.
I'm your huckleberry.
We're going to end this today.
That's right.
And I just think it's a great story for folks to dive into. It's a great way to get into the Bible if you haven't. People say, well, I can't read the Bible. That's just boring old junk.
Oh,
well,
my
once
gosh.
you get in here, you're going to find
many
out.
Great stories.
There's story after story that
right.
rivals even the great writers of fiction. Now, this is the one thing that I like to say. Man can claim to be the number one bestseller, but there is the number one bestseller
Still
is the Holy
far
Spirit
above. Oh,
who wrote this
still
book.
far above.
And that's a great thing and a great thing to be reminded of.
It is
For all the other books that are written in history that are great, none of them rival this book right here. And that's what I always say to officers. We ought to get into this a little bit if it's that popular.
And maybe you are a spouse of a young officer and you're watching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's a rookie or she's a rookie and they're just getting started.
Yeah.
Man, start speaking to them. You're a David.
Yeah.
You're going to run to the fight.
And let's talk about that for a second because when you've got that new officer, I mean, let's just be real. They're so overwhelmed with all this information, data dump that's occurring on them. Having to learn all these new things, tactics, law, books and manuals that are just stacked all over the table in front of them. They got to digest that and take that all in. It becomes very difficult for them at the same time to keep driving back into this word. Well, that's where you come in. While they're having to focus on all these things, legitimately so, you can be speaking this word, this life into their situation.
Text them a scripture.
That's right.
Hey, babe, I prayed for you today. I prayed this for you today. Text them a great scripture. Text them a great story. Hey, David ran out against his Goliath. I know you're having a tough day at work today, but you're David and you can whip this thing.
Yeah.
Text them make the word of God personal to you. Right?
That's right.
I faced Goliaths. Now they're not 9 feet tall and don't look like him, but boy, they sure do seem to be overwhelming at times. You face Goliaths. I mean, issues of life can be massive that you're dealing with right in front of your face.
That Goliath could be an addiction.
Yeah.
It could be a health crisis.
It can be depression.
It could be mental health issues.
That's right.
Family struggles.
That's right.
Everybody's got a Goliath in their life. That's the point. And
without that, you don't have a David because you don't need one.
That's a great point too, right? You'd have no story of David if there wasn't the giant involved.
That's right.
And so that's really a salient point for what's going on right now. I find that time and time again, reminding officers that it really sucks right now. This is a terrible time to be in policing, right? We can all agree on that. But think about this for a moment. God made you, created you, timed it to where you are here at this time.
At this time. That's
in
right.
the middle of this valley facing this giant.
That's right.
He's called you to be the David on his behalf in this time.
In this time.
Now, that's something pretty cool in there.
It is.
Right? And that can stir something up in you. And, you know, maybe you're the one on the shift that maybe you're the rookie. Maybe
That's
you're
right.
the young kid on the shift. But you can speak life into the situation, stir up that remnant that's in some of those seasoned salty dog officers in the roll call room.
That's right.
About reminding them what they're there for. And it isn't about running and gunning and fighting and all these other things. It's about standing the line for righteousness in the community. That may be how you respond to that domestic tonight.
And the first thing that David did was he ran to his brothers to feed them.
There you go.
Your first run is to go and feed your brothers and sisters.
That's right.
You can always have a good word. You can always have a good thing to say. Hey, don't make roll call negative. Don't make roll call down in the dumps. Have a good word to say. And then those of you at home, or those of you that have an officer, you give them a good word, and then they can go share a good word.
That's right. That's what I was going to say.
He got that food from his dad.
There you go.
Right? From his family.
Right.
So he gets the food, and then he runs to the brothers,
takes it to the roll call,
gives them the food, and then they run out on the field or run into the neighborhood to do what needs to be done and deal with the wickedness that was there.
And it may just be that long night of standing a post somewhere.
That's right.
And you think, what the heck are we doing this for? Well, you got to remind yourself, gird yourself back up in that if you're not there, what can happen?
That's right.
And why it's so important. And it may be sharing a link to a great song in roll call.
That's
that
right.
Stirs you up. It may be a story. It may be that video. It may be an episode of R&R. It may also be the word of life. And there's nothing wrong with that, my friend.
Yes, sir. I'll tell you, it'll change your life. It will change the perspective of your day. Now, when David runs to the fight, he eventually runs. The final run is he runs and stands upon Goliath and takes him out.
That is right.
Now, when he does that, he infused courage and a winning spirit in the heart of all the men that Goliath had been heckling all that time.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, because one man was willing to be the champion and beat the false champion, it infused the rest of the men that were up on that hill to come down and chase the enemy all the way back and have a great victory.
That's right.
So if you're willing to be the one, if you come to roll call and you remember why you're there and you're the one, and in your heart you say, we're going to get a victory today. We're going out. We're all going home today. We're going to do our job. We're going to do what we're supposed to do the way we're supposed to do it. But then, boys and girls, we're going home to our families, and you're the David, then you get the win.
And the other opportunity is to be able to do the same thing with your fellow officers.
That's right.
Even in their personal, private lives, right? Not just on the job, but at home as well, right? They could be the victor at work and do great work, but still be living a hell at home.
That's right.
Self-created, self-imposed, or otherwise.
That's right.
You can speak life into that situation as well.
Yes, you can.
And encourage that family. We're seeing marriages be restored, families be restored, folks that are making radical turns in their lives.
Yes,
we talked about it a few episodes ago, but this opportunity that we have, we're seeing cops coming to Christ all across this country.
Yes, we
this
are.
Great hunger, this great thirst. And when you speak that before officers and you show them that there is a way, that there is a path, they respond incredibly.
And they say, where has this been?
That's right.
I want you to listen to this.
Yeah.
Where has this been my whole career?
Whole career.
Even if they had it to start with and then kind of let it fade into the background in their life, if they walked with God initially and then kind of lost their way, or the career takes a toll on you.
Right. You get
all of
overwhelmed
them
by
to
it
a
all.
one say, I don't know how I'll let that happen, or where's this been? Where was this? Or if I'd only had this for the last 25 years of my career, right?
And we've been hearing that a lot.
Man,
And here's the
it's
thing
amazing.
that I want to make sure is clear to folks. We've been hearing a lot from officers and their family members saying, listen, whatever you do, don't stop doing the episodes, right?
That's right.
The Remnant Revealed episodes.
Yeah.
That's all great. And we're not gonna. But here's the thing that can't get lost in this, and we're always emphatic about this. The power is not in these episodes. The power is what we're pointing you back to. So yes, watch the episodes, but then go and get in this book. Don't just rely on the episode. Get into what we're actually talking about here and pointing you back to. It's going to help you out.
That's right.
It's going to restore you
That's
in
right.
ways that we never can. We can't do this, but he can. So make sure that you're getting in there. And, we've had a past episode where people say, how do I pick a Bible? We've got episode on that.
We do.
Of how to choose a translation and all those other things. Check that out. Scroll through the library of episodes. There's different ones that will speak to different things for you. We also know that we have people that are just now discovering the podcast, the channel, right?
That's right.
So maybe you're jumping in on episode 40-something.
Shout it out to people.
Just remember, there's 40 other prior episodes.
right.
Dig into them. See what they're all about, and then throw us a question. Throw us a question or an idea, maybe something that you would like to hear us discuss or talk about, wrestle with, tear apart on the table here. Just put it in the comments down below so we can work with that.
We'll go into anything, man. We don't care.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. We really do. And we do hear from some people, but we'd really like to hear, and we'd really like to entertain some questions. I love questions.
And we're getting a lot more thumbs up, subscriptions, likes.
Hit the
that
bell.
Kind of thing. Hit the bell.
Hit that bell.
All that stirs it up on the various platforms that we're posted on.
That's right.
And draws more attention to it.
And you never know when somebody sees that in your YouTube or whatever, and they click on it because they know you did. They may be struggling with something that's way bigger than anything they've ever told you, and it helps them. And of course, our heart's desire is to help every officer and their family and present a biblical perspective on policing.
Yeah.
Because we do really, truly believe this is core and key to surviving the career, but also having a great life afterwards and being able to process life through that.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the world will do everything it can to drive this out of the profession.
Far from your heart. Yeah.
You got to wonder why. But with that being said, I would just ask you, how's that working out for us?
Yeah.
Not well, my friend. No. So get back into this. Reroot yourself in why you do what you do. And to your point, it's not only going to help you survive the career, but survive after this career.
That's right.
To your point, retirees are saying,
yeah.
man, I did a 30-year career and never had this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Well, it's still not too late.
Yeah.
Get in here and help restore your life moving forward now. You got a lot to give.
And I want to say to all the officers watching, thank you so much for being willing to run to the fight.
Yeah.
We're so blessed by you. We love you. Don't ever, ever, ever spend a day on the job that you don't know that somebody loves you. And if you can't think that anybody does, I love you. Rick loves you, and there's nothing you can do about that.
That's right.
That's a fact.
That's good stuff, my friends.
It's good stuff. Hey, we love you. We call you blessed, and we'll see you real soon. You can check out the link on the books and all that we've talked about at the bottom of the YouTube channel. So hit and subscribe, hit the bell. See you soon. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Rick and I trust that you heard something that will help your life. And if you believe that it would help others, please make sure and share. Like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you can be notified when the next podcast is available. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.